on the road again. We can't wait to get on the road again. Telling stories to our family and our friends. We can't wait to get on the road again. On the road again. We can't wait to get on the road again. Telling stories to our friends. We can't wait to get on the road again.
Welcome to our monthly podcast, AAA podcast Affinity. Allie and Annette on the road to good storytelling with your hosts, Allie Spooner, wave Allie, and myself.
Hi, I'm Allie Spooner. I write with Affinity Rainbow Publishing, and I have written over 40 titles now, standalones and series, some short stories. I hope you enjoy our podcast today and you have an opportunity to meet a new to you author. We have a nice young lady joining us today. And to learn more about your favorites. We appreciate your support and invite you to visit Affinity Rainbow Publications to check out our books.
Hi, and I'm Annette Maury, and I'm also with Affinity Rainbow Publications. In fact, today, all of the special guests today, including our brand new author, is with Affinity Rainbow Publications. And I don't have as many as Allie's books. I think I'm up to 37 now, or at least it will be 37 once The Invisible Woman hits. And that's about all I'll say as far as an introduction.
Okay. Well, each month we invite a special guest or guests to join us as we discuss various topics of interest to writers and readers. We'll invite our guests to do a short reading and then follow with questions and answers on the featured topic, while encouraging them to do at least one giveaway to our audience.
And this month we're talking to we're talking about sapphic fiction / romance featuring young adults. Yeah, yay! It's kind of a brand new area for us. We have one other author that does YA, and in addition to Livia, and her new book, which is a debut book for her, is called All That Pride, and we're very excited to talk with her about her debut book.
Absolutely. Following our podcast, we'll upload to a newly created YouTube channel and hope you'll consider subscribing so you never miss a future podcast.
So I have the pleasure of introducing Livia. Livia Janes is currently a student at the University of Calgary, our neighbors to the north, taking as many creative writing courses as she can fit into her schedule. She has honed her craft since she was in high school, with her little sister cheering her on all the way. She hopes to graduate with her Bachelor of Arts and an embedded certificate in creative writing. All That Pride is her debut novel. You can follow Livia on Instagram and check out her website at liviajanes.com. She's also brand new to Facebook. Yay, we finally got her on Facebook.
Yay, and doing a wonderful job. Good job.
Thank
So,
you.
without further ado, Liv, if you're ready, take it away.
All right. So for context, this snippet that I'm about to read is right after Charlie and Darcy have arrived to pick up Lizzie and her friend group for a Halloween party, but Jenny is insistent on taking pictures before they go.
Okay.
What are you dressed up as? I ask. I'm not dressed up as anything. This is technically true. Darcy's dressed in ripped jeans and a long-sleeved crop top that hugs her curves, all black. Her eyes are lined with copious amounts of dark eyeshadow and liner, making the blue of her irises even more shocking than usual. She's not dressed up as a character. If anything, she's dressed up as herself. A really scary version of herself, which is saying something, because her normal self is terrifying. Her eyes flash as she closes the door behind her, and I forget to breathe for a moment. I remember in the next moment, inhaling as she thrusts an arm at me. She's holding out what looks like an iced mocha. You got me coffee? I did. Darcy lifts her chin as though she's ready to make excuses and defend her kind, generous decision. I considerately don't question her. Why would I question free coffee? Tearing the paper off the straw, I suck down a gulp. I'm going to be jittery all night if I drink this, but it's worth it for the soft look that comes over Darcy's face when she sees I like it. It's worth it to see the way her eyes darken when I put the straw between my lips. I abruptly pull back from the coffee, coughing. Darcy raises a hand, about to pound me on the back, but I wave her off. I'm fine, I croak, checking to make sure I didn't get any coffee on the costume that Jenny so painstakingly arranged for me. I'm fine. Darcy turns a more critical gaze on my frilly clothing. Who are you supposed to be? Jack Sparrow? I make a face. Jenny picked my costume. I've learned it's easier to go with it. This is a yearly thing, then? I thought I was done with it after 8th grade, I laugh. Then I met Jenny. It's definitely a yearly thing. Lizzie! Jenny jumps up and down, trying to see me over the bushes. Come on, pictures! Darcy raises an eyebrow when I look back at her. Pictures? Yep. I grimace, raising my coffee cup in some semblance of a toast. Tradition. You coming? I'm not dressed up, she stalls. I give her an unimpressed look. Right. Jake and Charlie totally got out of it because they weren't dressed up. I roll my eyes at her, reaching out and tucking my hand through her elbow. Come on. When we round the bush, we're treated to the sight of Jake and Charlie fully engrossed in one another. Jenny is posing them as she snaps pictures, but her instructions are limited. They don't do much PDA for obvious reasons, but it's clear that they're plenty comfortable with each other. Physically, I mean. The bushes have provided enough cover that Charlie's comfortable wrapping his arms around Jake's waist. Jake leans back into him, his head tilted against Charlie's shoulder. He's taller than Charlie, so that position has got to be uncomfortable, but they make it look like the most natural thing in the world. Foreboding itches across my skin. I can't see a hint of feigned happiness in either of their smiles, but I can't help but feel that this scene is entirely unnatural. Jake came home so upset only a week ago, but looking at them now, it's hard to remember the rift is even there. Charlie whispers something in Jake's ear, then makes brief eye contact with Jenny, who's circling with a camera. All of a sudden, he spins Jake around, sliding his fingers through Jake's belt loops and tugging him closer. God, my heart skipped a beat, and I wasn't even on the receiving end of that move. Jake's blushing wildly, resting his forehead on Charlie's. I don't understand how Jake is doing this. My hand tightens on Darcy's elbow and she winces. Oh, sorry, I say, my arm falling to my side as I release her. It's fine, she says to me, but she's watching Jake and Charlie, a worried crease lining her forehead. My stomach turns and I hide my discomfort in a sip of my coffee. Darcy shakes herself and looks at me. For a moment, it looks as though she's going to smile, but she doesn't, and I can see the trepidation I feel when I look at Jake and Charlie reflected in her serious blue eyes. I take a breath. Do you think... Lizzie, Darcy! Jenny turns her bright-eyed gaze on us. Your turn. Darcy wrinkles her nose, but she lets me tug her toward the porch. Fine. The hard planes of her face soften as she looks at me, and she holds out a hand. Drink? I pass her my already half-empty cup, and she reaches through the bars of the porch to set it down. She glances back at Jenny, standing uncertainly by the porch. What do you want me to do? Jenny suppresses a small smile. Sit next to Lizzie. Darcy gingerly sits next to me, mimicking my position. I lean back against the rails, sneaking a look at her out of the corner of my eye. Her knee knocks mine, a touch of warmth in the chilly October air. I turn my head and face her fully. It's kind of obvious that she isn't used to the type of photo shoot that Jenny likes to do. She stares straight ahead, the only hint of a smile and the softness hidden in the slight curve of her lips and the relaxed angle of her jaw. The light streams straight through her pupils, shining through the fairy tale blue, and the sharp line of her eyeliner matches the perfect application of her lipstick, every artful smudge and crisp stroke deliberate. A spark catches into a flame burning in my chest. Nate coughs, and I jump, my head swiveling. He's standing behind Jenny, his eyes twinkling secretively, a smile poorly concealed behind his hand. I grimace at him. What? Nothing, he smirks. Nice pictures.
Very good. Very good.
Nice job. Hey, before we get started, I got to ask, is that yarn in the back there? Are you a crocheter?
Yeah, it's yarn.
So is that for knitting or crocheting or?
A little bit of both. The yarn that you can see in the background, that's actually for a blanket that I'm making for one of my friends, and I'm knitting that one. So
knitting. Yeah. All right.
I do both.
Sorry, I just had to ask that. The other thing that before we start the real questions, So I was emailing with the big boss, and she brought up the two main characters' names are Lizzie and Darcy. So I have to ask, is this like the young adult version of Pride and Prejudice?
It is definitely inspired by Pride and Prejudice. I feel I've been kind of tentative about like marketing it as like a young adult LGBTQ plus version of Pride and Prejudice because I feel like I changed a lot in my interpretation of the story in the book. So like I feel like if I say, yeah, it's like Pride and Prejudice, people are gonna look at it and be like, no, this is different and this is different, and what did you do with this? But it's definitely inspired by Pride and Prejudice,
I
and
was I
that's
was going
kind
to
of
say,
how
I
it
mean,
started.
it probably could easily be considered a contemporary young adult sapphic version of Pride and Prejudice, I think. I think you could easily get away with that for sure. I mean,
Definitely where it has its roots.
Yeah.
yeah. So, okay, great. Sorry, just had to go there because I was like, oh my gosh, Julie was asking me that. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, that is so true. I mean, a
Yeah.
contemporary version of Pride and Prejudice if the characters were sapphic and young adults. That's perfect. All right. So now for the real questions. We are
Okay.
absolutely delighted that you joined the family at Affinity Rainbow Publications, and love to know if you could tell us a little bit more about your decision to join a small publishing company versus going the self-published route, and why us? Why Affinity?
Well, self-publishing is scary. It was definitely a potential option at the time that I submitted my manuscript to Affinity, but this is my debut novel. I had no experience in the publishing field and no idea where to start. And I also didn't like the idea of if I was doing self-publishing, I would only be accountable to myself. Because I knew that if I'm left alone, it would be really easy for me to let my fear of social media and like the anxiety of having no idea what to do or where to start, and if I'm doing things the right way, sort of crush my self publishing dream. And when KL Gallagher, another Affinity author, when she told me about Affinity, it seemed like a much better idea to pitch my manuscript to professionals rather than I see if I could make a go of it alone. And I think that it really was a good idea. I've had a great experience with Affinity and I've learned so much, even if I have never sent and received so many emails within a short period of time in my life. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. We are communicators. Um, Lately, we've seen a lot of posts on Facebook about readers looking for young adult novels for their kids, but that is either a recent phenomenon or I haven't paid attention before because Affinity didn't have any young adult authors until this year. Why do you believe this is suddenly cropping up in the sapphic reading groups? I have my theories, but I'd love to hear what you think.
I think that for a while, the young adult genre was kind of an untapped market for sapphic novels and just like LGBTQ plus novels in general. I remember when I was in middle school and in the first couple years of high school, I think there were maybe like two or three sapphic young adult novels that I came across at the library, which is really not a lot. I mean, there was probably more, but it wasn't coming across in the places where I was browsing. And that's one of the reasons that I originally wrote All That Pride. My sister wanted a book with girls kissing. I thought it would be fun to read, and it wasn't something that I was finding that other authors wrote for me to read. And now, especially since COVID, I've seen a lot more sapphic novels, LGBTQ plus young adult novels, that sort of thing. I hate to use the word mainstream, but I think that in the late teens and like early 2020s, it started to become a lot easier for teens to get access to information about different sexualities and less stigmatized, if that makes sense. And these
Mhm.
teens who are kind of discovering things about themselves, they want to see stories that reflect their experiences in the books they read. And because of that, there's just this sudden demand for sapphic novels in the young adult arena that authors are definitely rising to meet now.
Yeah, I mean, Facebook is probably you know more than anybody that Facebook tends to be an older generation, and so a lot of the Facebook groups used to be really uh, attuned to more mature women that would follow those groups. So I've only really recently seen, more requests for young adults, and unfortunately, it's those requests, at least in the Facebook realm, because there aren't very many specifically Facebook YA groups. It's about, hey, I want this book for my daughter.
My niece,
It's
yeah.
been
Yeah.
that. And so it's like I'm not really sure where folks who really, the younger folks, hang out to look for books that are YA themed. What's your thoughts on that?
I struggle with social media so much sometimes. I think that on Instagram, it's definitely a younger generation of folks on like the bookstagram looking for books in that way. My sister swears by TikTok. Which I haven't I've heard a lot about that app and I haven't wanted to touch it with a 10-foot pole, but she's saying that that's where a lot of like the younger generation's gonna be for looking for books and that sort of thing. So it's possible you may see me on TikTok in the near future.
Well,
Well,
that's
I
good.
think
And
what
if
you've
you
been
do,
doing on, yeah, what you've been doing on Facebook is it's a perfect lead into TikTok.
it is. Yeah, we do. Finity does have a TikTok account. So if you create a TikTok video, we can also post it there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good to know. We'll
All
see.
right. But
All right.
the book, in my opinion, because I mean, I'm much more mature adult, and I loved it. I mean, I loved your book. So I do think that your book has a broader representation than just lesbians who would be classified as queer YA. So tell us a little bit about, what inspired you to tell these stories about young adults across the spectrum. So it's not just sapphic, but you have, I think you have the brother and his partner, and then don't you have, I think did you have somebody
Sister.
else I mean, you have bi representation, you have gay male representation, sapphic representation. Was it, am I missing?
One of the younger sisters is trans as
And
well.
trans, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. I thought I remembered that. So what inspired you to, you really put the rainbow out there by creating all of those different characters.
Yeah, so there's kind of two answers for this one. The long answer goes through like my initial writing and brainstorming process, how I was sorting out the characters of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice into a different configuration,
Right?
which kind of ended up showing like a broader representation of the rainbow spectrum by accident. But the short answer is I decided to keep it that way because I believe that no one is an island, especially in the LGBTQ plus community. It can feel like there's a lot of division with like people focusing on the issues that are facing like their specific group, like within that rainbow spectrum. But in my opinion, the prejudice that the LGBTQ plus community faces doesn't often distinguish between the different identities that the acronym covers. And it was important to me to show like the acceptance rather than division in the community in the book. And I felt that keeping that broader representation of the rainbow spectrum would do so. It would kind of have that lack of division and like community and like support focus on that.
Good for
All right.
you.
All right. Another one of the tropes that's in your book is the coming out trope. Can you explain how this comes to play in your novel?
So at the time when I was writing the first draft, the first few drafts of All That Pride, I think I was feeling a lot of anxiety surrounding the coming out trope, probably thanks to things like the Love Simon movie, where keeping the secret really ends up hurting Simon and his friends. And because I was writing All That Pride as kind of a form of escapism, like a distraction to get away from the anxiety of COVID, etc., I didn't really want to introduce something else to make my characters stress about. Because, I mean, Lizzie stresses and angsts about things other than coming out, as she and her siblings have been out of the closet for years. But even though that trope doesn't take center stage in the novel, it does come into play like a little bit off to stage left in the background through Jake and Charlie's romance. Because while it's not an aspect of the queer experience that I wanted to focus on, it is an important aspect of the queer experience. Particularly, I felt when I was writing when one is in high school and meant to be discovering these things about yourself. And I wanted to give it its due.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and Darcy, doesn't she almost, it's a little bit of her coming out story too, because she's not really completely out and open, is she?
No, Darcy, yeah, you're right. Darcy is a little bit more private about it. So she's
Mhm.
kind of like in that, I don't know how to describe it. Because she's out to her family and she's out to her friends, but she's not out to like the world at large. Like
Mhm.
any random person that Lizzie walks up to in a hallway at school probably wouldn't know that Darcy's bi. And that sort of Lizzie in the beginning doesn't know that Darcy's bi
Mhm.
because Darcy is very private, so private about that part of herself, which definitely kind of increases the tension in some ways between them.
Yep. So, we've talked about more requests for YA novels, but I mean, the reality is that it is a harder sell in many of the markets in the traditional reading groups, um, because they're populated with really women in their 40s, 50s, 60s. Um, so why do you think it's, is that why it's a harder sell, do you think, in most of the markets?
Because it's a young adult book and the markets are aimed towards older people,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
it might be a little bit of that. I'm really not sure, but I think that it's the kind of book that it doesn't really matter what age you are. Like I still read young adult. I know that my mom still reads young adult and my dad has been persuaded to pick up a young adult book like every now and again. So I think that while it might be a harder sell because older generation is like, "Oh, I grew past this time in my life. Why am I trying to go back there?" I think at the same time, it can be enjoyable for people like in older generations to go back and read young adult books because of just, I don't know, the nostalgia and that sort of thing. I know if I were an older reader, when I am an older reader, I will probably definitely be interested in reading young adult novels because of the nostalgia. Because settings change, fads change, but I think that that very particular sort of utter out of control yet on top of the world feeling of being a teenager can be consistent throughout time and really resonate with people just no matter how old you are.
I agree, and I'm gonna bring up a series that I watched that I read as an adult that was really um, uh, it's not really children's, but definitely young adult that was very popular with adults. And I hate to bring this series up because it was popular way before J.K. Rowling went into her terrible anti-trans diatribes that she's gone into, but I do think that that nostalgia or just rooting for those youthful young characters and just kind of going back in time it really is enjoyable. I start remembering back, the younger days, and that's why, what was that series? I think it was a TV series where they went back into the 70s, and I was like, oh my God, I can so relate to that. And all of those feelings as a kid or whatever. What is that series that I'm thinking about? Oh, with the, yeah, and the do you like me, check yes, no, all that kind of stuff that was really, really silly and fun. And you go back in time and you relive those youthful years. So I think you're right.
Well, I got a question that's off topic and, well, not so much off topic, but off script. Are you a surfer?
I am not a surfer. I surfed for the first time last summer, and I had a lot of fun because I went and did lessons with my family down in Carlsbad near San Diego. And it was a great time. I was like, I would totally do this again, but I was not a surfer when I was writing this book. I still don't think I qualify as a surfer. Surfing is one of the things I had to Google whenever it came up to make sure I was using at least some of the partially correct terminology for it.
Okay. I
Wow.
think you
Yeah. Well,
can
I
out.
mean, I'm not a surfer, but it sounded true to form to me.
Yeah.
So I would probably characterize your book as sort of a mid-range, angsty. Would you agree with that? Was that on purpose, or is mid-angst kind of your zone, your safe spot?
I would definitely say that it's mid-angst, possibly leaning towards the high range of angst. I don't think that this was on purpose. I think it just kind of happened, thanks to my main character and who she is, because Lizzie just angsts and stresses about everything, even things that are by no means any part of her business. Um, in general, I think that I would say that mid-angst books are for sure my preference, so long as there's a happy ending.
Of course, there always has to be
Yeah.
a happy ending.
Gotta have that. So, as a new published author, what advice would you have sort of for somebody who's new and wants to get into publishing? And is there anything that you would do differently?
I think that the main advice I would have is to get involved, like in the creative writing community in your area or online or just however you can get into it. I was lucky. I found other creative writing people in creative writing classes that I took at school. It really gives you perspective to have other people who understand the craft and like write themselves and are familiar with it. It gives you a different perspective to have them critique your work. Something I would do differently, though, is I would not sit on a finished work for so long as I did. If you have a manuscript that you're confident in, just start sending it out. Don't let it rot on your computer for years on end like I did. And while getting an agent is definitely a great idea if, it works for you, I wouldn't shy away from the smaller publishing companies that don't require you to go through an agent because I didn't, and I've been really happy with the results. So,
So how long did you let it sit?
oh my goodness. So I finished the first draft of this in, I think I had just turned 18, so 2021. And then I edited it all through 2021. 2022 kind of fell to the side because I ended up going to school and kind of got distracted, didn't have as much time to like sit and work on my computer with the book as much. And then I didn't really get back into the edits and that sort of thing until like last spring, which is 2024. So it spent at least 3 years just in that sort of in between stage, not really doing anything with it. So I do regret that. I don't regret it in some ways because I do think that some of the plot lines are better developed now, and the reason why I was able to develop them so well is because I took a break from it and came back as an older person with more experience and that sort of thing. But at the same time, it spent so much time. No one was reading it. It was finished. It was here, and I do regret that a little bit.
Okay.
What kind of conflicts and complications are your favorites?
I like to do the miscommunication trope, which I know is a really unpopular answer because it's like, oh, why can't you just have a conversation and like solve all your problems that way? So I like doing that, but like a little bit more complicated. Like we don't need to have something that can be solved by a simple conversation. I like it when it's done with a focus on how different characters' worldviews just they don't line up. And to solve that miscommunication, instead of just having a simple conversation, the characters need to kind of open their minds and bond, get a better understanding of each other, and solve it that way, as opposed to just, hey, people have been telling me that you've been saying this. Are you saying this? No? Okay, problem solved.
But you know what? You can get away with that miscommunication trope, especially with young adults, because there's more forgiveness there. If you're like in your 40s or 50s, it's like, oh, for goodness sake, grow up, sort of thing.
Yeah, but when you
Yeah,
when you're a
yeah.
teenager and you're in that young adult arena, it does actually happen in real life a surprising amount of times.
So, how much research do you do for a book?
I'm finding that it depends on the story that I'm telling. With All That Pride, I did not do a whole lot of research. I wrote with what I knew and I did some Google searching for the things that I was less familiar with, like the surfing.
Surfing, yeah.
But for another work in progress that I have, I had to stop myself in the drafting process because I realized that there were things I didn't know about certain things that my characters were interested in. And I realized that the fact that they were interested in it, but I had no idea what it was hurting aspects of my writing, such as description, and just resulting in what I felt was a lower quality story, even if it was still in the first draft stage. So yeah, I think it does depend.
So,
Okay, now that you've teased us with the work in progress, tell us a little bit more about it.
yeah.
What you got cooking?
So I'm working on another sapphic YA book. It's still in that terrible first draft stage. I'm actually kind of experimenting with form and that sort of thing to try and improve it a little bit. But it's loosely inspired by the musical Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812, which is in itself an adaptation of like one section of Tolstoy's War and Peace. So it's definitely been an interesting project. And I also have a spin-off of All That Pride that's in the very, very early stages of brainstorming. I don't have anything down on the page yet. Starring a character that my sister swears is going to be the most hated character of All That Pride. So that one is also going to be a bit of a challenge.
Your
So,
sister
what
sounds like a
character?
fantastic motivator. Yeah.
She is. She really is.
Which
She's gonna be so vain by the time I'm done promoting this novel, like, because every time I feel like I'm talking about my sister says this, my sister says that.
So which is it? Is it a character that's in All That Pride that is most hated? Who is which one? Do we get to know that?
Yeah, I can tell you. Lillian, so Lizzie's younger sister.
Oh yes, she was a little pill, wasn't she?
Yes, she was. But I'm excited about this one because everyone's gonna hate Lillian because from Lizzie's perspective, Lizzie does not like Lillian. She does not understand Lillian, and she's not very sympathetic to Lillian. So I'm looking forward to kind of telling a story from Lillian's perspective and showing the places where Lizzie missed something or didn't want to see something, and kind of exploring that relationship that the two of them have as sisters.
Yeah, you get glimpses of it, so that'll be interesting
Yeah.
to put people in her shoes and be more
Absolutely. Yeah.
sympathetic to that character. Good, good.
Yeah.
How much of your personal experiences are part of the book? Any book, any of your books?
That's another one that is always kind of, it depends. When I was writing All That Pride, I was very focused on not including any of my experience. I was trying to make this character like as different from me as possible. Um, but going back and reading through, she really reading Lizzie and her as a character, who she is as a character. I was trying so hard to make her not like me at all when I was writing this at 17, but when I reread it with edits and all of that sort of thing, I am reminded so strongly of who I was at 17. So I think that it bled through without me being intentional about it. Parts of who I was definitely bled through into the novel.
Oh, it always does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You can find parts of yourself in I think most authors feel that way. You can find parts of yourself in the books.
Yeah.
You got to put a little piece of your soul in there.
Yep.
Otherwise, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work
That's
without
right.
it.
So, a pantser or a plotter?
Plotter. Plotter 100%. I spend so much time thinking about the plot and thinking about my characters, rotating them in my head like a rotisserie chicken at Costco before I even so much as start putting like the first sentence down on the page. I don't know. I feel like I need to like marinate in the plot and the characters for a little while before I can really be like, okay, this is the direction I want to go with this story.
So you know exactly where it's going to go, right? Then do you plot every single scene? And
I know sort of the general direction I want to head in. And I'll have very specific scenes at certain points where I know I want to have this. I know I want to have that. I know I want to have that. But sometimes it will, like, I'll have this aha moment like midway through writing. I'm like, hang on, this isn't right. This needs to be over here. And then it just kind of moves on from there. So it's not like I plot everything out and then that's what I stick to. I plot everything out and then I kind of meander my way through, changing things here and there as things kind of become apparent to me about my characters in the plot. I don't know if that makes sense.
it does. So it's like I often think of the pantser or plotter is a continuum like sexuality. You're not completely 100% a plotter, but you definitely lean in that direction.
Yeah. I like to know where I'm going at the very least. Like I can't just people who just sit down and start writing, I'm in awe. I'm like, how do you do that?
Well,
Well,
I'm
and
not
on the
sure that even as a pantser that we just I mean, you have to have a kernel of an idea. You sit down and you don't, I mean, I never sit down. I'm a complete pantser. I'm pretty far on the pantser end, but I have an idea and
Yeah.
then it goes from there. So,
yeah,
and
yeah,
Allie,
and
you're
our
probably the same
characters,
way. You have an
yeah,
idea, right?
characters just take us where they want to go, and it's just like I- I'm in awe of the people that can plot it out and say, okay, we're going to start here, and this is where we're going to end up. I could do that, and it's 20 miles away from where the original intent was going. But that's what works for me.
Yeah. There's no right way to do it.
No, just like there's no one right sexuality, right?
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
So, anything else that you would like the readers or the folks out there to know about you, your books, your works in progress? Any last thoughts that you want to share with us?
You know what? I am at the point where I am scared to say anything else for fear of spoilers because I have so many thoughts about this thing that I've written, and I'm really excited to hear what people think as they start reading it. My dad just the other day, he recently read through the new and like the official version that's getting published,
Right.
and he came back with a take on a character that I was literally like, hang on. You're totally right, but I did not do that on purpose. So I'm really interested to see if there's going to be any more of that from other readers as people start reading the book.
Oh, but you're not going to tell us what that take was, are you?
You know what?
Oh, come on, give us it.
Sure.
Spill.
So we know that Darcy's bisexual, and one of the friends in her friend group is aggressively heterosexual, and he's totally okay that Darcy's bisexual because, in his mind, ooh, bisexual, like two women, that's hot. But he's very in it for sort of from a very selfish point of view. So he's okay with it because it's women and that does something for him, but he's not as cool or I don't know, accepting when it comes to two guys together, which I think is all I can say without spoilers.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Yes. Well, I will say that I'm well into my 60s and I loved the book. It was a fun read. It was a good read. It's a well-written novel, so I hope the rest of the reader audience out there checks it out. And it goes live in 2 days? We're doing this podcast a little earlier. Sorry, thanks to me because my schedule is kind of crazy in September and we couldn't find a date that would work early enough. So, right, 2 days,
2 days,
Right.
yeah,
Yep.
September 1st.
September
crazy.
1st. So you
So
can get
late
on a
tomorrow night
pre-order
it'll be
now,
out.
though. So nobody says that you don't have to buy it now. You can buy it now, and then it's gonna come out in 2 days. So there you go.
Pre-order is available. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Livia, and telling us all about your book, All That Pride, and giving us even more little teasers ahead of time from anybody else. We had to pry them from you, but we got them out of you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and don't forget to check out our YouTube videos, and also there will be short and long-term versions on Facebook later today, early tomorrow. So give this young lady some support. It's a great story. You'll really enjoy it.
It is. And next month, we'll be talking about superheroes with the celebrated award-winning best-selling author, Lee Winter. So hopefully he'll come join us for next month's podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.